It's time for Two Guys and a Goalie with Dustin Nielsen, Matt Cassian, and the goalie, Joaquin Garrett.
Welcome to The Lock Shop with Nielsen and Hustler, powered by Coolbet Canada.
That's The Lock Shop. Nielsen and Hustler with you here. It's funny, I just recorded a Two Guys and a Goalie, so I'm listening to the music and I'm just kind of bopping along. I wasn't even thinking. We just did one like 30 minutes ago. So, Haas, what's up, my man?
If you'd seen the look on my face, you would have known that something doesn't sound. Maybe we got new tunes for the Lock Shop.
I was just kind of hopping along. I was loving it. It was great.
Wow.
What
is up? Well, listen, I just hope that we haven't bankrupted Coolbet because they've been great to us, and I would feel personally responsible if the fact that we just keep on throwing out golf winners every damn week and actually doing very well in the CFL over the course of the past 5-6 weeks as well. Just hope that all our friends there are still gainfully employed. But I'll tell you what, shout out to everyone that has been riding with us lately. This is unprecedented. 3 straight winners, 5 of 6. And in golf, when you're only picking 3 guys a week in 150-man fields, it's not easy to do. So God bless you, Tony Finau. I knew there was a reason why you were always number one. Back to back, he did it again.
That is insane. And what else is crazy is that it was Henley and Young who finished T2 with Pendrith, and they were 2 of our guys as well. Like, it was this is an insane run that we are on with golf. I had the 2 in a row, then we missed one, then you followed it up with 3 in a row. It's to be honest with you, man, I would love to see the odds on this. Like, it's a ridiculous run. Hopefully you've been riding along with us here, because it's been a very nice summer for the Lock Shop Golf.
Yeah, no, listen, it has been it's been unreal, and I'll tell you what, we also got to give a big dap to Taylor Pendrith, Coolbet guy, Coolbet athlete, and listen, if Tony had lost, I would have been disappointed for the bet, obviously, but I would have been so excited for Pendrith, man. He is having a monster season. Very shrewd signing by the Coolbet team. Pat Greggy and the guys always put some special Pendrith odds up each and every week. And he just continues to get better and better. He's now contending. He's there on Sunday. A T2, incredible week for the Canadian. We'll be hearing much more from Taylor Pendrith. But wow, Tony, for a guy that was always top 10 Tony and top 5 Tony and T2 Tony, he's now back-to-back Tony, and man, his game is in such good form going into the FedEx Cup playoffs. I cannot wait to see what he's got for us in a few weeks.
We'll give you some picks for the Windham Championship coming up this week as well, as we try to make it 6 of 7, and Husk goes for 4 in a row. We've got some Tuesday MLB parlay action, deadline day, obviously, in Major League Baseball as well, so we'll get into that a little bit. But yeah, let's dive into Week 9 in the Canadian Football League. And Husk, like you mentioned, man, we've been doing pretty good in the CFL as well. This week we go head-to-head on 3 different games, which we haven't done in quite some time. So there's lots to get to this week. I like it.
I'll say this about our because week 1 of the CFL, I think I was 0-3-1, and I don't think I've had a losing week since then. A few 2-2s like last week.
2-2 has basically been a bad week for us. Like,
I was thinking about this. For all the times that we've been on the same side, I don't think we've lost a game in the last few weeks. We've gone head to head on quite a few, and like last week, I think you were 3-1, I was 2-2. But overall, so when we've been on the same side, it's worked out well. This was a weird week, though. This was a really weird week. I did my picks late last night, and I noticed that there's already been some movement, and that's why I always love to jump on these lines early on Monday if we can. But just quickly, shout out to the Bombers. This team,
holy smokes.
Listen, you were there. You called the game. I was saying to you off air, to me, as far as CFL games go, that was for week 8 of the regular season, that was about as good as it gets. I mean, 2 teams, excellent teams playing almost mistake-free football, no turnovers, no sacks, hardly any penalties, phenomenal play on both sides. And even without Greg Ellingson and without Jackson Jeffcoat, Zach Caleros, what a game he had. The running back of the Bombers came up big, huge for Brady Oliveira. Mark Leggio with the kicking game that had been a little shaky comes through, and the defense gets it done. And I don't even know what to say. I'm almost at loss for words on the Bombers, although we'll probably be having 2 hours worth of words on that team on WST this afternoon. But it's just been fun. And that was another masterpiece.
Well, it's funny because nowadays you don't look for a lot of dynasties in sports because it just doesn't happen, Huss. But from a Canadian Football League perspective, the run that this team has been on with a win-loss record, when they decided they dressed the lineup that they wanted to win with, it's ridiculous. They're basically unbeaten like for almost 2 full seasons now. When you go back to Colaris midway through the season a couple of years ago. So, I mean, as a guy who has to describe their games on television every single week, essentially, I'm running out of words to do it. It's remarkable. And then for this game this week, Bombers Alouettes, last night it was 6. The line has moved. The Bombers are now a 5-point favorite. It was 6 last night. Now it's 5. So it's moving the other way. Your thoughts on that? And I mean, a lot of people are maybe with you on the Alouettes in a spot play here against the Bombers. Is that what you're looking at?
Listen, I'm betting the Bombers to win this game. I hope no one take this the wrong way. As I said last week, no one's getting rich betting against the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, and I will not be doing that. The money line right now is at -227. I do think it's a lot to expect the Bombers to go in and just run away with this football game. One of the strange things that if you're out of market, you might not have noticed is the fact that the Bombers are 8-0 right now when many of the other teams in their own division have played 6 games.
Yeah.
They have not had a bye yet. They have played an incredible run of football on short weeks for all intents and purposes. And this is another challenging week where, you go from Calgary, you come back, you have a day of practice, and then you're off to Montreal. So, listen, if there was ever a spot where the Bombers might come up a little, not at their best, I have a feeling that this is sort of that case. And, the other part is that, we're not sure. And again, obviously this is earlier in the week when we're making these picks, but the fact of the matter is that on just a short week, do we expect Ellingson and Jeffcoat to come back? And listen, the Bombers aren't they're caring to go 18-0. I think they want to put themselves in a great position to win another championship right now. And they've certainly done that so far. The other thing is the Bombers historically going across to the East have not run away with these games. They've done quite well in them. I still think Montreal's better than they've shown so far. So I think this will be a closer game. And seeing the Alouettes getting 6 as a home dog last night, I jumped on Montreal. I mean, I'm thinking Bombers in the 3 to 4 point range. But hey, I'll tell you what, if they ran away with it by 2 touchdowns, it wouldn't surprise me either with what we've seen so far from this team over not just this year, but the last 3 seasons.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to go with. I'm going to take the Bombers -6. I mean, you look at what they've been able to do as of late. They've been tested big time by BC. What happened there? 21 points, boom. Game taken care of. After that, it was a pretty evenly played game, but it didn't matter because the Bombers won that game in the first quarter. Calgary, who might be the second best team in the Canadian Football League, they've given them everything they can handle the last couple of weeks. They still find a way. They play like Zach Colaris completes 7 passes against Edmonton. They still win by 14. And I know Trevor Harris. I think he's exceeding my expectations for what he had left in his career when he was here in Edmonton. You're watching him and you're like, oh man, I don't know if this guy's got anything left. Who's going to pick him up? And good for him because, he's a great guy. He's great to talk to. He's a leader and he's done some good things for the Montreal Alouettes there. But I just think the Bombers defense is going to I don't want to say tear him apart, but the Bombers defense is going to cause some major issues for Trevor Harris, in my opinion. So I like the Bombers to go on the road and do what many people like. I'm done second guessing them. I thought for sure they were going to lose to Calgary. And a lot of people did, but they just went out and got it done again. So I can no longer go against them. Like I've learned my lesson. So and maybe this is the week they bite me. I could see what you're saying here. A 3 or 4 point win. I think in my mind, I might be like, yeah, that's the case. But that's because I always underestimate them. So I'm going to go with the Bombers. I love it at -5 right now. I was on it at -6 last night. So I'm going to go with the Bombers on the road -6.
Yeah. You're in a better spot right now, getting the Bombers right now at 5 than last night at 6. And I'll say this, all week long, Dusty, we were talking on our shows about the line. It was 1.5 for the Bombers. It was -1 for the Bombers. It completely changed in the last 36 hours before the game. I got the Bombers at +120 on the money line. And I know a lot of people close it about +115. So there was some good value. Anyways, this will be a great game. Great way to kick things off on Thursday night. And then we'll see what the Stamps have coming back from a disappointing loss against Winnipeg. This game opened at 4 last night. It's now 6 in favor of the Stamps. And I think there's a lot of folks, obviously us included, that expect Calgary to go and show that they're in a different class, frankly, than Ottawa and some of those teams in the East right now. We'll see whether this one gets up to 7, but certainly at 4, the way it rolled out to begin with, I like Calgary. I think that they'll, certainly get back on track. I think they played about as well as they could last week. It wasn't like they killed themselves. Most of these other losses that we've talked about of teams sort of self-inflicted, bad penalties, turnovers, that wasn't the case. They just simply lost to a better team, although Bo Levi Mitchell says they won't be at the end of the season.
You know what? It's funny because the Bombers have done what they've done. They haven't become villains. Bo Levi has always had a little bit of that around the league. People have been out. So Bo Levi's the perfect guy in this league to say they haven't won the Grey Cup yet. They were the better team today. I have a lot of time for the BC Lions and the Calgary Stampeders being these two teams that are going to try to seek out and take down the Bombers. And on one side, you got young Nathan Rourke, who would never say anything like that. And you got Bo Levi, who's been there, has won, and is just like, yeah, they're not the champs yet. So it's funny. You sent these out last night, Huss. You sent me your picks last night. I basically got to my picks about a half hour. You sent me yours. You had the Stamps at 4. By the time I got there 30 minutes later, it was at 4.5. You said it's already moved today, and I'm good with it all the way up to 7. I mean, I think the Calgary Stampeders, nothing against Ottawa. Nice for them to get their first victory. I understand that, and they probably should have had 1 or 2 more victories along the way. I get it, but to me, the CFL right now is Winnipeg, BC, and Calgary right here, and everybody else down here. And I think Calgary, they've only lost to Winnipeg so far this year. Kadeem Carey is, in my mind, undoubtedly the best running back in the Canadian Football League. I think he's an absolute monster. And, Bo against the Bombers, not great. Bo against the Red Blacks this week, I think he's going to be excellent. So I'm on the Stampeders here. We got it last night at -4.5. So
yeah, congrats to Ottawa for winning their first game in the JV division. They're moving up a weight class and playing varsity this week, and I don't think it'll go well. Speaking of the JV division, someone's got to win between the Argos and the Ticats, and I'm going to need to check this. I can't remember whether it's the Argos or the Ticats. One of these teams gets a bye. One of these teams plays someone else. One of these two teams has their next 4 games against the same opponent. I think it's Hamilton that plays Toronto in their next 4 games. Like, the CFL schedule was screwed up to begin with. I mentioned like the Bombers having all their buys in the second half, not playing yet. But explain to me how in an 18-game schedule, any team can play 4 consecutive games against the same team.
Well, I think actually, I think that was false. Whoever put that on Twitter. Because week 11, Hamilton plays Montreal and Toronto plays Calgary. So it's 4 of 5. They each play 4 of 5 against each other.
That's still a lot.
But
yeah, 4 in a row.
It's a crazy amount. It's 4 games against each other over a 5-week stretch. And then there's a separation in there in week 3 or whatever it is. But it is, well, I mean, I don't want to say it decides the division, but it decides where these two teams are going to be in the division, does it not?
Well, for sure. I mean, unless someone thinks that Ottawa is going to completely turn it around or Montreal is going to do it, this is sort of it. So, it's interesting. This game, I took Argos at -2.5. It's now -2. But listen, I think that the Argos, have a big bounce back game after a real disappointing loss to a team that they had no business losing to in Ottawa, in my humble opinion. Obviously, there was an issue with Andrew Harris late in the game. He wasn't around it, and I just think that they bounced back. I can pretty much guarantee you at the end of this 4-game series, these teams are going to be 2-2 head-to-head. Like, I cannot see either one of these teams kind of really running away with it. I like the Argos at home. I think they'll be much better than they were on Sunday. And to be honest, I think the Ticats a lot in that rivalry, and the Ticat fans might bring out the best in the Argos. So need a little bit more from MBT. And bottom line is I still don't really trust the Ticats, despite the fact that they got the win last week against Montreal.
This is an interesting one to me. Like that, the Argos won a game that they shouldn't have won on that missed kick, and then they beat the Riders twice. And having watched the Riders quite a bit this year, the Riders offense is straight up stuck in neutral. Like the fact that the Riders put up 20 points in the Argos, probably not good. Like the Riders right now, Cody Fajardo is not capable of doing what he is when he's like, I know they're saying he's 90 to 95%. From what I've seen from Fajardo, I don't think it's anywhere close to that. And the Argos still kind of had to squeak those out. Ticats have won 2 of their last 3. 3 of the Ticats' losses have been against Calgary, Winnipeg, and BC. And Calgary, Winnipeg, and BC are the top 3 teams in the Canadian Football League. So I'm going to take this line's actually moved to 2, I think. We got at 2.5 last night. I'm going to take the Ticats. I'm going to take them plus the points, and I think they're going to outright win this game too. So I'm going to go on Hamilton at plus 2.5 at home here against the Argos. And then we got the big spread. It moved last night, too, from when you sent the picks in to where it is. I don't know what it's at right now. But you got the Elks at plus 12. I took the Lions at 11.5 last night. Huss, you got a current number on this line right now? That's 11.5 still. 11.5 still. So, oh, Huss, I think you're muted.
Sorry about that. Yeah,
go.
still 11.5. Elks minus 114 plus 11.5, and BC minus 11.5. Now, I don't know. I had to really sort of hold my nose. I just think this is just such a massive, massive number. We've seen more teams hang in games and backdoor. And the Elks have gone sort of one way or the other. I mean, they've been completely thrashed and humiliated in a couple games. But as they play more and more, they're sort of hanging around. They certainly were hanging around in that Winnipeg game, but they weren't able to cover. Probably should have. And, we saw BC a couple of weeks ago have a little bit more of a pedestrian game against the Ticats, only putting up 17. That being said, they got a bye. They certainly look good against Saskatchewan, especially in the second half. I don't know. Maybe I just have too much faith in Chris Jones, but I just feel that they're going to make some progress, at least defensively, being able to stay in this game. And listen, this isn't a real strong feel or lean play, but in a game like this, you're going to give me 12 points. I'm going to take it, although I don't feel great about it, just because of how good Nate Rourke has been in this BC Lions offense after, the way they beat Saskatchewan in that second half. But I don't know, my nuts, the Elks quite well. I mean, I think they're capable of playing close games. I certainly don't think they're going to win on the road, but can they be in there in the fourth quarter?
I'm probably still looking back to week 1 when the Lions just had, like, James Butler had 4 touchdowns in the first half against the Elks in week 1. Plus, coming off a bye week, the other thing that I think a bye week's good for a lot of teams, and maybe it is for Edmonton too. But there's probably, I haven't seen a depth chart or anything yet, but I'm thinking you'll probably see 6 to 7 new faces in the lineup for the Elks again as Chris Jones continues to fine-tune his roster. So what does that mean for them? I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. What I do know is that Nathan Rourke is going to throw for 300 yards and 3 touchdowns in this game. So for me, the Elks are going to have to score points. And I'm not too sure they can outside of, there are 2 weapons right now. Kenny Lawler, still ridiculous, and Manny Arsenault, who's 34 and is quietly putting together a pretty good season. And that's about it. So I don't see the Elks holding Rourke and that offense to 16 to 20 points. To me, this spread comes down to if the Elks can score 20. And I'm not sure they can on the road in BC against, I still think, a pretty good BC Lions defense. So I'm going to go with the Lions. I'm going to take them minus 11.5. I know it's a huge number, but I'm going to go with BC at home here minus 11.5.
Yeah, as I said, this was a case of holding the nose and making the pick. Listen, we're contractually obligated to pick every game, and I would anyways. but I don't feel great about this one. This is going to be a really interesting week. I thought they did a good job of putting out lines that really made you think on both sides, at least early on. And, we'll see how different these early lines are as to where they get going on kickoff starting on Thursday with the Bombers and the Alouettes.
All right, let's go to what the Lock Shop does best, and that is golf. We've delivered winners for you in 5 of the last 6 events. We look to make it 6 of 7, and Huss is looking for 4 weeks in a row. That's an entire month where he would have picked the winners. Huss, let's do it again, buddy.
And the best part about this has been, Cam Smith and Tony Finau, 2 of my favorites, the guys that we've heard their names the most, really coming in and rewarding right now. And Dusty, when you think about the way we started this golf season, I think speaking of 5 of 6 weeks, I think we had the runner-up 5 of 6 weeks at the beginning of the year. So we were definitely due. But here we are, Windham Championship, everyone trying to get the points before the FedEx Cup begins. And to me, it is time for Will Zalatoris to finally get his win.
This is the time,
This is it. I really do think. I looked at the board and I went straight to Willie Z at 20-1. This is a tournament where you don't have to be the biggest masher. We've seen Kevin Kisner win here before, Webb Simpson here before, and Webb Simpson is always basically contending, and we'll get to him in a second. But to me, the iron game of Will Zalatoris, the way that he finished on the weekend, I think it all, and I think also there's something to be said about a little bit of a lighter field, much like Tony Finau took care of in Detroit and in Minnesota the last couple weeks. This isn't a major caliber field right now. It's a perfect opportunity for Will to get his win. And he's been so damn close. He's lost in playoffs. He's lost on the 18th hole. Now it's time for him to get it done. And, considering the other players in the field, I have to admit, I was pretty impressed that he opened up at 20-1 and was able to get him that. Now, I will tell you, there's probably a few other people that have jumped on him because he has now gone down to 18-1. But still a pretty good number. Sungjae Im is the favorite at 16. Lowry and Willie Z now at 18. And then Billy Ho at 22. My second pick, Webb Simpson, who has an incredible record at this event. He is a former winner. He has been tied for second at least twice. I believe lost in a playoff once. He opened at 22 yesterday. And actually, if you want to jump in on this right now, he's at 25-1. So it's a really good value on Webb Simpson. I don't think that will stay there that long. So, those Webb Simpson's certainly a play more on history. Zalatoris he's very much due play. And then the other guy, and this is a guy I think, remember his name, Dusty, because this guy is going to be a regular in my selections. Joo Hyung Kim, a.k.a. Tom Kim. His English name comes from Thomas the Train, because he used to play with those quite a bit. Fast food connoisseur, talks about how as soon as he gets over to North America, he, quote, gets a little fatter because he loves In-N-Out Burger. I heard him do a rundown of his favorite American restaurants, and it was like Chipotle, Panda Express. It was essentially like he's just been on a road trip through the States with me for 2.5 weeks. This guy is unreal. And he's a freaking protege is what he is. Very young. I want to say he's 19 now, 20 years old. Shot a 63 on the weekend. He's got fully exempt status for the rest of the year. Kind of similar to what Zalatoris had last year when he didn't have his full tour card. Anyways, this guy is the real deal. I'll be honest. I think this number should be higher considering he hasn't played that much, but it just goes to show how much people are paying attention to Tom Kim right now. So 33-1. He is my third selection, and he's already quickly becoming in the Hustler stable of favorite golfers. But Zalatoris is the pick, directly to Willie Z for this one. Press send. Webb Simpson, Tom Kim for my 3 picks for the Windham. Dusty, what do you got?
Well, I got Billy Horschel and Henley and McCarthy. We'll get to all 3 of these guys. Horschel, you mentioned 22-1. He won a couple of weeks ago, or a couple of months ago at the Memorial. Since then, he hasn't had a top 20. However, let me just bring up his history at the Windham. And in his last 5 trips to the Windham, he has finished 5th, 60th, 11th, 6th, and 2nd. In those 5 events, he has shot higher than 69 just once. So this is a guy who's won this year. He's got a couple of seconds this year. He's done extremely well over those last 5 trips with 4 top 11s. So I've got him at 22 to 1. That'll be followed by Russell Henley, who kind of blew it here last year. First 3 rounds, he was the leader in all 3 of them, and then fell apart a little bit in the 4th round, ended up finishing T7. He finished top 10 last week. So he's played well here before, has work left to do after last year, and he just put together one of his better rounds, or one of his better events of the year in Detroit. So I'm going to throw Henley in there. Henley right now, or at least last night, was 27 to 1. And then Denny Mccarthy is another one. And this is kind of interesting. He's 4 for 4 with a T22, T9, and T15 since 2019 at this event. So he's been in the mix at this event 3 times since 2019. And in his last 5 starts overall, he's got 3 top 10s. So I'm not sure how many of you have heard of Denny McCarthy. I'm not very familiar with him myself. But considering how he's played here, just quickly looking at his last 3 Wyndhams, hasn't shot in the 70s at any of them. I mean, he's done very well. And then, like I mentioned, what he's done lately, it's weird because he's gone T5 at the Memorial, T7 U.S. Open, missed cut, T6 at the John Deere Classic, and then missed the cut at the Rocket Mortgage. So he's either been outstanding or he's completely missed the cut. So that's a guy that's sitting there at 35 to 1. So I'm going to throw him on the card at 35 to 1. And as we know, one of these guys will finish at the top of the leaderboard at the Windham Championship. It's just a matter of which one. Just a matter of which one.
I think so. Zalatoris had a great weekend, 69-65 this past week. And I just noticed Tom Kim had a 63, as I mentioned. He finished 7th, another top 10 on the PGA Tour. So we'll see what's up. A couple quick changes from this. Henley has gone down to 25 to 1. So you got that at a good number last night. And as I mentioned, Webb Simpson, if you like Webb Simpson in his course history, he has gone to 25 to 1. So an even better number right now. Willie Z 20 to 18. So there you have it. It's not like we're throwing out 15 guys each. We're just taking 3, and we've been hitting them 4 in a row. It would be an incredible feat, Dusty. We'll be locked into the final round on Sunday. Let's see what happens.
And let's get to some sprinkles in Major League Baseball, eh? Yeah. Should we go there?
Yeah. Let's quickly run through this. So I'm looking at the games for tonight. A couple of great pitching matchups that I think you can feel pretty confident about. One of them is the New York Mets. Let me just get here our scores for today and get the pitching matchup. But I believe it's our buddy Jake DeGrom, and I mean, he has been such a monster. Although going up against Abbott, who very limited time. This number has shot up even more than the -286 it was last night. So listen, I think the Mets are a pretty safe money line play. But I'm going to go on the opposite, take an underdog, and that's the Mariners. The Mariners had such a great run with the 13 or 14 straight wins going into the All-Star break. They've scuffled up a little bit lately, losing 4 or 5, including last night's series opener to the Yankees. They've got Gilbert on the mound tonight. He's 10-4 with a 278, going up against Jamison Talon. I just think this might be a good spot for the Mariners to get in there. And then the other team will go as with the LA Dodgers in the nightcap tonight. And the Dodgers have Anderson on the hill. He's 11-1 with a 261, going up against Alex Wood for the Giants. I know the Giants are somewhat of a nemesis of the Dodgers. The Dodgers got him last night. So last night it was -143. Just a safer parlay if you want. Mets Dodgers +129. I like that. But then I also added in that Mariners money line and played the three of them together at plus 450 for a little Tuesday night baseball action. Dusty, what do you got?
Yeah, I got a couple of games. I'm going to go with Corbin Burns. He's 8-4 so far in the year. Going up against, I believe, Bryce Wilson's going to get the ball today, and he is 1-6 on the season. So I'm going to, I'm just going to take money line. I'm going to take the run line here with the Brewers against the Pirates, and then I'm going to work that into a little bit of a parlay with Chris Archer and the Twins going up against the Detroit Tigers, a Tigers team that is 17-36 on the road. So the Twins minus 192 on the money line. So you parlay the Brewers run line at minus 1.5, Twins money line at minus 192, and you get a parlay of plus 156 on the diamond here on a Tuesday night. Looks like the Blue Jays are getting involved a little bit in trade deadline today, and Juan Soto obviously moved earlier in the day, although they're still trying to sort a few things out with that trade to the Padres. So it'll be interesting to see where the dust settles here, Hustle, in Major League Baseball.
Yeah, no doubt. This is a big 24 hours. I mean, leading into this afternoon's trade deadline. I've kind of just been refreshing Twitter every 5 minutes to see what, if anything, the Jays have done. But man, the Padres, they have been so uber aggressive the last couple of years. They face planted last season with a big disappointment. But now they'll get Soto. They'll see if they can ink him to a long-term extension, and it should make for an interesting stretch drive, both out there in the NL West and, of course, the very powerful AL East, where the Jays reside, along with the Yankees, who have added like 4 significant players in the last 24 hours.
Winnipeg Sports Talk today. What do you got coming up, buddy?
Oh, my God. We're just going to be gushing over the Bombers for 2 hours, probably. Justin Dunn's going to join us. We'll kind of talk about the CFL as a whole, get his thoughts on the blue and gold, Jeff Hamilton as well. And just a huge weekend here. I mean, we got some Valor stuff to talk about, a ton of Bombers. Gold Eyes were at home. We'll have the latest on the trade deadline with the Blue Jays, talk to Sean Watson's suspension. The Dolphins losing a first and a third round pick and their owner getting suspended for a week. There's a whole whackload of things to talk about coming out of tonight. But as I said, I'll always have Tony Finau on my mind. And as of right now, Will Zalatoris and Tommy Kim going into this weekend to see if we can make it 4.
Tony Finau, officially lock shop legend. Simple as that. We got to make a list, the legends list, and Tony Finau is on it.
Well, hey, you know what? Do you know why he is my ultimate ride or die? Why I became so infatuated with Finau? He was the first PGA golfer to ever come on my show. He came on in his first or second year on the PGA Tour. He had played here in Winnipeg in the Canadian event, and I had a friend that was doing some stuff at the PGA that said, hey, would you want to talk to Tony Finau? I'm like, absolutely. And he was such an awesome guy as a guest. He was my guy from that moment on. And now, 8-9 years later, the guy in a lot of ways is carrying the tour on his back for a couple low weeks while the MAGA tour invades Trump Bedminster or whatever. How about that scene on the weekend, eh?
Oh, my goodness. Sign up for that, eh? Jeez Louise. All right, That's going to do it for another episode of The Lock Shop. Winnipeg Sports Talk coming up with Huss over on the YouTube channel with Winnipeg Sports Talk. If you've been watching The Lock Shop on Twitter, make sure you subscribe to the podcast as well so you never miss an episode. Just search The Lock Shop on all your podcasting platforms. It's all brought to you by Cool Bet. Stay cool. Bet responsibly. Huss, enjoy the rest of your week, man.
Yeah, well, hey, just quickly, heads up, folks. If you've been thinking about jumping on some of these picks with us and you haven't a Cool Bet before, use the promo code LOCKSHOP. They'll give you a 100% bonus up to $200 before you make your first wager. So let's get it. Good luck. And Dusty, I think by next week, we're going to start kicking into some NFL futures a couple times a week. It's just about time for fantasy drafts and betting on Sunday.
Very exciting. See you later, man.